Hey guys, we are back with another episode of It's the Transworld podcast. We have a very special guest tonight. Super excited. I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. I'm going to let him introduce himself. But before we do that, I'm Raquel, your host, and I'm going to allow my handsome co-host to kind of give you his spiel. I don't know what he has tonight, but if he doesn't mention these Lady Gamecocks, Lady Gamecock Nation, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and I've been a Gamecock fan since I was this high, okay? So I'm not a bandwagon fan. I was a fan before Dawn came, but I'm in love with the Lady Gamecocks. Congratulations to the Lady Gamecocks for winning their third national championship. The viewership for women,
that's right.
Beautiful, the viewership for men. So kudos to women's basketball. We're super proud of you ladies. Congrats to the Lady Gamecocks, Dawn Staley and staff.
Yes. So since she said all that, I don't have to say all that, but shout out to Dawn Staley, the whole crew. Y'all representing, y'all did the thing. Congratulations. In other news, I want to shout out Washington, D.C. Washington is pushing inclusion and becomes the 7th state to require LGBTQ plus curriculum in school. So I just want to give kudos to Washington because it's needed. You know, they may want to push or erase us, but I think that if it's, my opinion is that if it's included in education somewhere, it's going to help somebody.
Yeah, I if you had not said that, I completely missed that in the headline. So I always learn something when you go over what's going on, especially politically. But yeah, that's a big deal. Certainly, I think with voting being so important this election season in November, guys, you got to get out and vote. You got to vote. You got to vote. Every vote matters. Some of the laws that they're trying to pass as it pertains to our transgender brothers and sisters, it's scary. It's flat out scary. So we got to get out and vote. Before we get started, guys, we'd like to tell you that this is a safe place and we lead with love and we talk about anything. There's nothing off limits on It's the Transworld podcast, so you can say it how you want to say it. You may have a potty mouth, you may not, whatever. There are no rules on the show. So I won't steal any more of this young man's thunder. Please introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, and walk us into what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, my name is Ken. I am a transgender identified male, meaning I was assigned female at birth. However, I have since medically and socially transitioned and I live my life as a male. I'm a mental health advocate. A lot of my work in mental health comes from my own experiences, being diagnosed with bipolar and depression in my early 20s. The main 3 aspects that I really focus on are medication management, self-advocacy, and having a safety plan, which are 3 areas that I know very well because those are 3 areas that I came up short in the past. And when I have neglected those 3 areas in the past, I had some, am I allowed to say suicide on this? I know this is recorded.
No.
So I had no, okay, cool. So I had some suicide attempts. So I am a multiple suicide attempt survivor. And so those are the things that I talk about. And that's kind of where my passion comes from because I've been on the dark side. But I've also kind of seen some of the lighter side as well. So my research, my doctoral research, because I am a student getting my PhD, and a lot of my research is about destigmatizing mental health. So that's just a little bit about me.
And you my kind of man. I like them smart, lady.
That's right.
I like them smart. You don't even got to be cute if you're smart. Oh my Lord. Malik knows how I feel about that. If you weren't cute, you cute now.
Yeah,
that's dope. It's not often that we get to talk to individuals that are pursuing their doctoral degree. And for those of you, you may be more familiar with PhD. You know, people say that word and they say it so lightly, but I do know what that entails. And that's a heavy load to carry. Getting your PhD is like being in a marriage, and it has a lot of ups and downs. And I don't know how far you are in the program, but the dissertation alone, it's a lot. So congratulations. It's a big deal. If nobody has said to you that they're proud of you, I am proud of you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you mentioned several suicide attempts and being diagnosed at 20. Can you start with before you were diagnosed? You know, you're going through these things mentally, but you have no idea what's wrong yet. What was that like, if you remember or recall, like the battle before you really knew how to take care of yourself?
Well, I will say that being transgender and identifying as transgender complicated that a lot, because you're growing up and you're trying to figure out, okay, is this something that's really serious, or is this just related to me being unhappy with what I'm seeing when I look in the mirror? So I was battling with those two things at the same time. And what I learned in my healing process is that bipolar is one of those things that tends to manifest in the 20s. So it's one of those things where you won't really see signs or symptoms until your early 20s. And for me, one of those things was very severe depression. But initially, I thought it was just kind of related to, oh, I want to transition. I want to be a guy. But then the suicidal thoughts started to creep in, and it just became it seemed like it was a little bit more serious than just related to gender expression.
So when did you, can you name a particular thing that happened that made you be like, whoa, or, brought more attention to what you was feeling that was different, that you knew was not the norm?
The voices, I would say, starting to hear voices telling me to harm myself. That was completely different than me saying, I'm unhappy with what I see. I'm unhappy with what I feel. Then I'm compared to hearing voices saying, you know what? You should cut yourself. You know what? I bet you feel better if you start cutting yourself. And I also want to say that one of the things that we never talk about, I don't hear people talk about very often when we talk about mental illness, is the time lapses that you have, because there are parts of my memory that I just don't remember. There are times in my past I can't remember, but we don't talk about that a lot, which is I try to get people to talk about that, because you'll hear people say, I don't remember, or sometimes people think that you're just blowing them off, but you just don't remember because your brain's been doing so much work just to function.
Wow.
To that.
Wow. I was going to say, Malik, you can relate to that in your memory. I think I don't have a good memory either, but I don't forget lapse of time. I may not be able to remember what we did 2 weeks ago, but I know that we were there and we did something. You know what I mean? That's scary though. That's very scary to not remember, because what if it's something that's uberly important that took place?
I can definitely relate, because there are periods in my life that I just don't remember. And I can relate to his depression, because sometimes I want to know things, can't remember them, and it makes me depressed inside.
I think it makes perfect sense. It puts you on a cycle.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I read about mental health and the statistics, 1 in 5 persons suffer with some type of mental concern, disorder. And that's mind-blowing to me. 1 out of 5. So that means all 3 of us battle depression. We're 100% right now. And prior to my situation, I didn't realize that I was suffering from depression until it was really, really bad. And mine came out in aggravation, irritation, anger, aggressiveness, but not necessarily. A lot of it was me by myself. Can't get the door to open. So I'm super frustrated and I break something. And by the time I really realized I had gone too far, I just remember praying and saying, God, if you just get me out of this bed, I'm going to call the doctor and get help. I was afraid to come off of my medication because I didn't realize that I felt so bad until I felt good again. I didn't know that I felt like I didn't know. So I was terrified. I was medicated for 90 days. And I remember getting close to that last 30 and calling the doctor saying, yeah, I just want to stay on it. I don't really want to try to see what it's going to be like. And he was just like, just trust me. If you need it, we'll go back to it, but you got to at least try. But I was terrified because I didn't realize how bad I felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
go ahead, sir.
but like with those episodes, like you had several attempts. So how did you manage coming out? Like I never attempted to kill myself, right? But I've had like manic depression. But how did you manage coming out of one of those situations? You know, that you made it over, but yet you're still, like it's still there. Like, did you, that type of thing? Did you go to counseling?
So I want to start by saying that the thoughts don't ever completely go away. So even though I take multiple medications every day, I have one medication that I take 4 times a day. So I'm always going to be on medication. So it helps me manage those thoughts. But there are still times when those voices try to creep in my head. Hey, you should cut yourself. Hey, you should do that. So I do want to point that out. As far as those times in the past, it's been God. Somebody found me. I had a situation where I had sliced my wrist up with a razor blade. Somebody found me on the floor. I took a loaded gun, I put it to my head, and this could have been a scene in a movie. I didn't tell anybody what I was about to do. I took the gun off safety, I put it to my head, and somebody burst through the room of the house. Nobody was home. So I don't know how that person even knew to come home to, that was God. And they ran in the room and was like, Kendall, don't do it. But I also want to point out, if this helps kind of give a glimpse into mental illness, it was not a situation where I felt like, oh, my life is so terrible, I want to die. I was at one of the greatest points in my life. I just had my son. I was doing very well. You know where I was at in my life, Malik. I was, things were looking really good. But those voices, the mental illness was key. I just couldn't win that battle. And that's where the medication management aspect of what I do comes into play, because my medication needed to be adjusted. But to answer your question as far as how I handled that, somebody found me every time. Like I didn't have control.
What are some of the triggers? Do you know what triggers you that causes the feeling of depression or those dark places? Do you know what trigger that?
Some of it is due to childhood trauma, growing up in an abusive home. And some of it is the mental illness. And that's just the burden that I have to carry.
Yeah.
So if you can remember this far back, do you recall trying to kill yourself when you was younger?
Yes. The first time I remember taking some pills, I was about 9 years old. I remember my mom wanted me to go to church in a dress, and I did not want to wear the dress. And it made sense to take a bunch of pills so I didn't have to wake up and wear a dress to church the next day.
So at 9, you knew that you were.
Yes, I was one of those people who knew, like, I had to be told that I was not a boy constantly. Like, you're not a boy. You can't play with the boys. You can't do what the boys do. Because I just knew. So, yes.
I'm glad you brought up. That's an important point, because, society tends to say that kids just don't know really how they feel inside. And I beg to differ. It may not be that way for all kids, but for some kids, they know.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all know when we're different, though. Even if we can't articulate it, even if we can't put it into words or, put it into gender, we know that we're different. And if we're lucky, we have family around us as little people that notices it and just sees how it plays, right? But then there's some of us, like yourself, not necessarily in a fortunate situation where you had the time to figure it out and go at your own pace, because you were constantly being forced to be something you didn't feel that you were. Can you talk a little bit about just childhood trauma and how that shit follows you until adulthood?
Oh, and a good example of something from my childhood that followed me into adulthood is I was raised in a place where I wasn't allowed to, my mother didn't talk to me. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to touch her or anything down. I wasn't shown affection. And I was reminded that I was adopted. So she constantly reminded me that she took me in when nobody wanted me. She wouldn't talk to me conversation-wise, she would not speak to me. So growing up and as an adult, I had a thing with people where I would cut you off. I wouldn't, to me, that was normal. And so I had to work as an adult, even in my 40s, learning that that's not normal. It's not normal to just cut someone off because they say something or do something that maybe you don't agree with. Conflict is healthy. It's normal. But growing up, that's what I saw. Because like I said, I wasn't allowed to have relationships or wasn't allowed to play with my family members that were my age growing up. I was kept in the house, isolated. So I did not learn how to have healthy relationships growing up. So as an adult, a lot of the relationships that I could have had that may have been healthy, I sabotaged them.
I think one of the things that I've noticed, I've had a very close relationship with someone who clearly had mental health issues that needed to be dealt with. Why is it so difficult for people to get help?
I think there are a myriad of reasons. A lot of people don't want to go on medication. And that's a whole different set of problems because medication affects people in different ways. A lot of people don't want to gain weight. Medication slow you down. For me, the reason I got on medication and made sure I stayed on medication was because I didn't want to be that parent that you see in the commercials for mental health medication that's stuck in the bed and can't play with their kids. I didn't want to be that person. So that's what keeps me motivated. My child keeps me motivated to stay healthy, stay on my medication, advocate for myself with my doctor. But a lot of the people that I encounter that won't get help, the first thing they say is no, because my doctor's going to put me on medication. I don't want to take medication. Or I don't want my doctor to label me. I don't want to get this label of having this mental disease or this mental diagnosis. And so fear, I would say fear.
Yeah, I know firsthand people that have power struggle with people knowing. And I've lived it. I've seen people who have power struggle with people knowing that they're bipolar or they have multiple person disorder or they suffer from XYZ. It is a big deal if people know. Yes, it's interesting. But I think you are right. I think it's fear. Ultimately, that's fear too. It's fear. Wow. Yeah. Now, you mentioned a couple times you're a parent. Are you a birthing parent?
No, I'm not a birthing parent. Although every time people see my son, they're like, "Are you sure?" Right. That he's the spitting image of me. He's my whole personality. He's definitely 50-50 though. He's his mom too. But yes, I have an 8-year-old, soon to be 9 actually. He's 9. I wouldn't say he's 9. He's about 2 months away.
Yeah, he's 9. I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool. You answer all of my questions. I think it is amazing for you to be a parent. I'm sure you're working full time. You're getting your PhD and you're managing taking care of you. Because that is not always easy because school is pulling you one direction. The baby is pulling you this direction. The wife is pulling you this direction. And still you have to find time to really take care of you. And it's really admirable because it's not easy. It is not an easy task. Congratulations on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, he navigates really well. He checks on me more than I check on him, but he knows I got a lot going on, but it says a lot to who he is with everything that he has going on. So
you could leave people with one thing or just advice on how to navigate mental health, what would you tell them?
I would tell anybody who was trying to figure out how to navigate their mental health. Mental health is a lifelong journey. It's not something that you're going to find an answer to tomorrow and be okay. You may be okay tomorrow, but you may not be okay the day after that. It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Y'all heard it from Dr. Ken, soon to be Dr. Ken.
I like it.
Thank you so much. I think
I receive it.
healthy conversations. Like, we got to start talking about the difficult things, and nothing really changes until there's dialogue. I will die saying that. Nothing can change until there's dialogue. We have to be willing to talk about the difficult things, the things that aren't as pretty as we would like for them to be. I think it's so important. It's vital. Malik, you have any last questions for Ken?
No, I just want to piggyback on what you said. Since we started the podcast and even the show, which we are nominated for a GLAAD Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you. It's been our mission. We always say if we can help with one person, then we would have done our job and what we set out to do. And I know if you're sharing your story, there's somebody out there that needs to hear it. And so I know I speak for both of us when I say we are grateful that you had the courage to come on and, be vulnerable and just share your life story. Like, this is your life story.
Yes.
So we greatly appreciate it.
So, and for everyone that's tuning in, don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to get help. We want you around. We want to love on you. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. You can't take care of anyone if you don't take care of yourself. So please make yourself a priority. For those of you that don't do a good job with self-care, today is a good day to start. It is not too late to start taking care of yourself. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for It's a Transworld podcast. We appreciate you guys. Malik, close us out. What do you have over there? I know you have something.
Yeah, so listen, guys, like I said, we are nominated for a GLAAD Award. We'll be in New York on May the 11th. Our award is actually being announced on stage.
Yep.
So if you don't know, a GLAAD Award is like receiving a grant. Yeah. So it's big, so we are super, super excited. We are thankful to GLAAD for, producing such platform for all of us to be seen. For more information, you can follow Raquel at AQUELRT3. You can follow Transworld ATL on Instagram, and you can follow me at one gorgeous, that's _churchboy BO. Also go over to YouTube, subscribe and like at Dreamcatchers Production. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. And for every single person that has watched the show, that has given us a sponsorship, that has assisted us on this journey. As a director, creator of Transworld, I say thank you. It is not possible without you all. Thank you so much for your support. The work doesn't stop. We are preparing for season 2 right now. Super excited. You'll start seeing behind the scenes footage soon, but we're in the process of filming season 2, and we plan to have a season 3, 4, 5, 6, because representation matters. We do not often, we have never seen trans men tell their stories on TV. We've never seen it. And I think it's important for us to continue to tell those stories, because there is a little boy, a little girl that will benefit from seeing Transworld Atlanta. To just show them that you're not alone. You have a whole family. Keep going. This is the other side. So thank you for your support, everyone out there. Thank you for your support. As we wrap up, I'm Raquel, your host, my co-host Malik. We thank you for tuning in for our podcast. Be good, be safe, take care of yourselves. And most important, self-care is important. Take the time to take care of yourself. Until next time, guys, because I'm a little tongue-tied tonight. We will see you guys next time. Stay good, stay well. And Malik, tell the people. Ken, tell the people bye. Tell them we're out of here. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Karen.